Hello. I'm going to do a review of what happened on Friday, May 31st, the last day of the month and of the week. To complete the review for this week, which was wonderful in every way, so you can see a bit of how I see it, how I've been seeing it. Well, this is going to start from the Asian session actually, because I noticed that in the last few days, well, Asia and London were moving quite a bit, so I found it interesting and decided to check it out. So I've been watching this range roughly until before I go to bed, which is around now after I finish recording the Thursday review for you. So this over here was very nice, and it happened, well, the market price opened at 6 p.m. here, and it started to fall again like it had been doing on the previous days when it opened around here again. I immediately said, well, let's start to see what's over there. Since we broke this origin, let's start to see what's down there. And we had already reached 30% of this fractal, but 50% was pending. So it was a magnet that actually in Thursday's review video got to be over here. I had it marked while I was recording the price action review for Thursday. I already had that in mind, and it was what I wanted even to look for a trade in Asia before going to bed. And the price didn't manage to get there at that time. Then in London, when I was already asleep, it did get there. Precisely at 50. And look at this beauty. Sweep this, it goes back into the range again, even within the internal lows. And from there, all the movement of the morning happened before the market opened and the London close. There's the one responsible for the previous 15-minute range. So, where were we coming from? All-time highs, and they're 50%. Then look how the higher time frame was. So precise, 50%. There was another change in structure in that time frame. It's around here. Opening the week, well, Tuesday, it had already come back to 50. It dropped around here, and the market reached around 70 at the close of Asian session in London the next day. Again, takes us out of our last swing point. And on Wednesday, 30% of that responsible. And again, we went. And so it was going. And the market went quite marked the structure. So well, what happened specifically around here? We had this last area remains unmitigated since we left here and closed below that origin. And the responsible person was here unmitigated. So I started working all the time with the responsible person and with the origin that had remained unmitigated around here. Here, look, actually, this nice tap at 50, swiping this low here, and then there was a movement around here to an area that was the last one validated by the price, by order flow, before breaking down. Look how the price was making fractals in a lower time frame. Then it created this responsible when it broke here, but this responsible was generated as a result of this previous area touching its 30%. It went back inside the candles that were forming that lower time frame trend, and it went. So it was that last validated area, 30% here. What happened here? Sweep to 30, block at 50, from 50 of the origin to 50 of the area by order flow. Relative structure change here, but you already know that order flow is more important than simple structure changes. Understand in the areas. So It closes above the high. So look, well, this was a headache due to structure. Actually, same thing here. It went up, closed above, then closed below, then above again, then below, then above again, then below, and then above again. But look, if we understand it from the areas, both by order flow and those responsible, as well as certain areas without mitigating with lows in between. If we understand the price that way, it won't be dancing from one side to another as if we were only seeing something as mechanical as if it closes below, I go. If it closes above, I go. I mean, if the market were like this, it would be ridiculously easy. The structure is more for a narrative and a kind of direction, but understanding well the areas from which there is a positioning is more important, and having expectations from where a reversal can then be expected from that. Well then, over here, it did a flip, made a candlestick structure from this imbalance, and when I saw it started making the double bottom, I said, okay, now we're going to mitigate that. It took quite a while, but it was doing the whole pattern. Flip, tab, double bottom, until it finally went. And this was also struggling with a flip. It did here in 5 seconds, if I remember correctly. It was doing the ping pong since then. And, well, look here. It made an apparent flip. But actually, it was a sweep within this imbalance. And the 50 wasn't mitigated yet. So what I was showing you is the trap in case studies of when this can be expected to be a false flip, an inducement, especially if we are coming from a rejection, not every high or low that gets taken out. And if it worked, it is a flip or a candle pattern. It must be clear when something really needs to be mitigated. When can we expect it to be a false flip and thus not fall for these things? The price rose here. It had reached 30. That high was swiped. It was rejected. Then it came to take the low. That low was swiped. It was rejected. Made a candle pattern. Retraced to the candle pattern. And then it went to the 50. And from the 50, no pullback. Meaning when the function of the swipes and the true tap is really achieved, that movement usually occurs without any pullback, that there is no pullback anymore. Over here an imbalance had been reached. I think it was in 15 minutes, and I am not. This was the only thing there was. Here is this imbalance here. It filled, and then we continued upwards again. It was rather nice, that back and forth interaction in this whole area. And the responsible person was respected twice for making those decisions about ticks, ensuring the movement of prices without leading to confusion or errors. So once again, it's the same thing. Almost shirking responsibility when a tab had already been made. That a boss did all of this, so now double top builds are complete. Okay, now we have the actual movement. Where does it go? To the origin that had been unmitigated. So reaches its 50% candle pattern here. A low, a high, a new low, high removed. Pull back. And now that gives the strong move. To where? To the area that had validated the price to create this responsible party. Then ready, this failed to give the continuation, failed to break the low, knowing that the pattern was already complete. So if I know that the price is returning around here, it has no reason to return around here if it's not going to take this out, because the pattern is already halfway and my double top is already there, so I expect the distribution. If at this point it doesn't do it, and I start to see this, the last thing I want is to start taking shorts from here, because it runs the risk. Remember that when something fails to fulfill its function, whether it's a rejection, a double top, a flip, whatever it is, that should give us an indication that it is in danger. So, well, in those 1 minute structures that I was doing, the price left this 30% area and then it went up. So we got here to the 50, made a first tap, couldn't even take out the low of the previous candle, the bullish candle. Hence, it ended up swiping, giving that first tap, and now yes, the flip happens and the price moves up. So look, despite it being Asia, despite it being London, and this being Nasdaq, the price action was really nice. I rarely look at it, but I happened to, and it seemed super clean. And well, so now what happened next? When I was already sleeping, what I was expecting from this responsible happened. We came around here to swipe all this to hit that 50. It did. Rejection. Pretty simple. Pretty linear. And then he came here to that person in charge of this previous area plus their 30%. So here is the person in charge. And now we go directly to the opening. It's 30% of the swing area. The one responsible here that is actually within this larger area, but well, we can use multi-temporality to refine it. So there it is. The price arrives here before the opening. So when it got there at the opening, what do I observe? That the price had a rise. What happened here? And where is the price reacting from then? I identified my previous zone of higher time frame, and we're in its responsible area. Well, this gives me certain short-term outlooks at the opening, especially because this news came out earlier. And until just before the opening, all of this here was unmitigated, and all of this here was unmitigated, and this origin here was unmitigated. This origin that was left over here. This came over here, but not me. I don't use this as a tab, honestly. I want a tab at the level of the responsible area, even if it's just for me. This is never a tab. So taking all that into account, it was like a bias that I had, and the flip happened over there, took out the low, retraced to the flip area, internal sweep continued, retraced to the previous fractal, internal sweep, and that's how the price started moving from there. Internal sweep, it went again, retraced to the previous area. It started going again, and quite linearly. And then the opening comes in. I remove this. It is at 9:30 around here. Ready? So over here, the opening retraced to the previous area. It gets here, takes out the lows, goes back to the origin, starts to leave until it reaches where? To this area that was here actually. Since this was news, I took it this way, just as I have told you that sometimes I omit the data wicks. I also pretend the news didn't exist. I mean, it's something curious, it's something I've done for a long time. But I take it as that area that was being worked on before the news, and then I consider the news separately as well. I take the area of the news and that, but I still keep this, omitting what happened here, the manipulation or whatever might have happened during that news period. So I had taken that and had seen that, well, this is responsible in another temporality. responsible, I think. In a minute, it becomes clearer. This was like that last area before going to break over there, all of this. So, well, I had that marked there, and I saw that there, well, the reaction happened. The previous valid hike was taken out, already then seeing the 5-second structure. This was taken out. It was the highest point between these and these. The pullback happened around here, which would be with an imbalance within this, and the price kept going. Around here I gave a pretty nice trade. One that I took, and since I was arriving to the responsible, I didn't have full confidence yet to go long, because, as I said, my bias was short. I was waiting for a setup in short, but what made me go long was this spike here. Those who saw it live saw this how it came. It made a candlestick structure in 5 seconds, super fast, touched this, and this was a huge candle but super fast upwards. After it touched the candlestick structure levels in 5 seconds. See how fast it is, but it's fractal. So it made this low. Then the high came over here, and the low took out the high and retraced to 50%. And this happened super fast. So when I saw this, and that it turns back like this, and that here it whipped and got back into the range, instantly I went in. That is to say, the tip, the high rejected twice. So for me, it was this responsible, doing the double top, and the price went up again. This was like a flip with a candle pattern. That was pretty nice too, so. And there's no algorithm behind this doing these things at high speed. No one can take that idea out of my mind. I know there are places with very beautiful concepts and all, but to understand the price this way, and having the idea that the entities with the most money have high frequency algorithms working on their own, this is the closest to that. So look here at the precision, then look here again. So here is the double top tab with a flip in between after the double top. Generally the flip that happens on the first tap is the most risky, but the one that happens when both taps and the sweep are already done and a flip happens, that's usually the safest of all. So here, this one was super nice too, and when it started to break responsibly in this area, I was like, okay, now we're going to go super short, and well, here it broke out of this logo. If I can spot the structure, I can't see it. And here this was 30%. Well, this high. This low was never validated because we never closed above this high. So that's why I'm marking from here. Here I mark a flip. Here I mark structure. Remember, they are two different things. One thing is this, the flip, all that, and another very different thing is the structure. They are two very different things. Many people sometimes tell me, why do you mark this here and then mark something big? So they are two very different things. Here I mark a flip, a candle pattern. But what I see here after closing down here is the change of structure, not below this. Because this was never validated, because we never closed above this. It is a weak low, especially after coming from a rejection. And this one was the protective low. because this one did have its valid pullback and the continuation with body. So again, a very trending market. 30%. Swipe this small high to take the 30%, bounced back, went in again, and left. Now we close below all this, and in a minute, this formed as a structure. This is a 1-minute structure. There it is. Very trending market, responsible fractal. We are in a high volume time frame. Most things will end up as wicks, not so much as structure, because there's a lot of volume, there's a lot of movement. Again, it was at 30%. Then the first tap is made. Wine came and did a rejection from a small fractal that was jolting here. The price. Look how order flow is applied again in lower time frames. Here is this little fractal to which the price returned and started to continue. It swipes this, but keeps going within the fractal. So despite the bearish candle pattern, look how it takes the high again, because there's a certain area, right? It's Andin that's messing with the price through order flow. So this is where the price starts doing this. Until when? Until it breaks. Look how it breaks. Super quick pullback to 30% now from this, and it's gone. Super fast. But as long as this holds, see how the price can come and swipe around here from all over. Then it returned to what's responsible for this. Made a double top from there and also left. Broke slightly here with a body tick, and with a wick of a few more ticks. It returns 30% of what would theoretically be the one responsible for removing that responsible 30%, and leaves immediately. Now, if we reach later on the magnet that it had, which was the origin, this origin, around here, I don't remember having done much, to be honest, in this drop. There were hardly any pullbacks. I think it was pullbacks and a lot of imbalances. And that there was no pullback here. It returned to the responsible fractal. It wasn't even in the one that was with the 30 more. Around here, interesting, before reaching the origin. This sweet, these logos, sweet, these logos, and this area that was given by order flow. From there, reacted to its origin, and that gave this pullback. Then this came around here. This area is simply pullback from areas. They're really interesting and good. Here, these ticks, these returns to 50 with responsibility. It goes here, takes this, stays a responsibility to take. The responsible arrives at the origin, fails to take the origin, which puts the wolf at risk, because it is already so on the edge, and not taking that. Reaches this responsible to take the responsible, trying a push, but does not succeed. It was simply a pull vague. The previous area up here, candle pattern, where the flees to the area and it left took out. It was the pullback to this again, 50%, and the price started to go. Then if this was the one responsible for taking this out, and we are looking for shorts, we wait for the break of that. And that becomes responsible for breaking responsible. This doesn't look mechanical. This must be in favor of an order flow and a direction already determined. So well priced. Now, if it gets here and there, where it took another trade, it made the top, it did this, then it got to 50%, sweep rejections. If I'm not mistaken, this one is always more aggressive from 50, because I was confident of this. Additionally, it gave flip, but look how it did the same. Again, the top, trying a reaction from there, it comes in sweeps, and then it goes another very, very nice trade. I took it like this target. I could calmly target this one being responsible, but nothing. The price was moving many points. And here, well, I felt fine with that target. With minis, it's more than 10 points. It's something decent. It reaches the responsible one. This area, and that gives the pullback. Where does it do it? Well, what is the last fractal before really closing with body? I remove this because here I placed it before. So the responsible one is the one that generates the body. Close the break of structure. So I take this look, how it sweeps all these nearby lows. This one already tapped at 30% left, so theory applies again. First tap, continuation, second tap, sweep, tap at 50%, leaves again. Now where did it reach? To the responsible one. That breaking is the responsible one. Get there. Simple. Flip. Again. You have to check many sides here. It is. The low is removed. Retracement to 50. Then comes to make the double top. The low is removed. Retracement to 50. Gives a continuation. Comes here. Something internal is swiped. It remains the tap. Double top. We're going now. And well, at this point, earlier things were different. So at this point, that's when the superlinear drop started. So what do I start doing when this is happening? First, I know that we had been going up for many days. So I understand that we have weekly imbalances. So the first thing I was looking at as a target is obviously 50 of this. Then, once it started to go past it, the next thing I look at is this, which means that the price gets here, the imbalance is filled, the imbalance is completely filled. And finally, where was I expecting the bounce? Which in fact, I sent to someone internally a while before, like around here, when the price was making the entire drop. At 35, I told the person that I was expecting something at 35, but the price reached up to 41. It stayed 6 points away, because it was 30% of the whole daily range of the whole daily range. And from this news that I remember how I had traded it from the responsible one, I remember well how I traded this whole area up by grabbing the data. We gain all this in the movement of the high, the last movement, the low, and now exactly. It's 50%. Too well. It's a good point. I find this point interesting for a bounce. But the price got here. It got here. And that. And it went. And it did hit the price. The price hit. Let's go to weekly. If we see it by fractals that we have here, it's this fractal, the one responsible for taking that to make the boss from here and take all this. So what does it become? This fractal is responsible for bringing out the boss in weekly and in daily. There were a few more fractals, but look how it's still the same movement and came down to here, and then it went so simply in to omit that noise. We got there, and then the real action started. In the afternoon, I didn't see it. I didn't see it, but here, what I managed to say was this overheard. I was watching when the pullback was happening. It was doing 1 minute structures. And nothing in this pullback. The structure changed. It went back to 50%, and then the price started to go up again. So I wanted 36, 35, and knowing that we came from a whole week of strong bearish positioning. And it was Friday, so I wanted that position clearance. I wanted longs, but I didn't expect them so soon, around 12, and I was left waiting a bit for that 35, honestly. But when I started to see this, which was the only thing I saw in the afternoon, the weekly wick was already done. The Friday position clearance model was in place, so nothing. I'm not going to go into much detail about this, honestly. I mean, there were things well over here, something quite nice too, so to wrap it up. Because of the topic of order flow, so well, I was following magnets on the left. I was looking for this area first. I was seeing this. It was unmitigated. So obviously, as we were falling, I was seeing the imbalances. And from here is where the inflation news came. So I was going part by part. That was a target when we started here. The 50 where 350 is was the closure of the weekly imbalance. It was in confluence with this. Here is 350. There the weekly imbalance closed. So I was looking at shorts towards that point, and it was very beautiful because order flow was applied again. It made a false change of structure. It made a false change of structure upwards. But look how everything generated from over here. And this small fractal had some importance of something to the left. Well, it's already complicated to go over there. If I remember correctly, it was responsible for something over there. And throughout that fall, here it got validated. He went back to it and continued, and then took advantage of it. We went back to it. He created the whole pattern, many tops, and then left. What happens here is price comes, does everything up to continuation, comes and does this apparent change of structure, but we simply went back to that area where the entire pattern was generated and left. The same happened here on a smaller scale with this area. Price came and validated it. It was really a range, and what I was finalizing was feeling this imbalance and reaching that 30 of that area here. Price began to fail several times to make a new low, started to reject, 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 and nothing. It didn't succeed. There was another point where it was also a ping pong.
But I remove the replay to see if I find it faster. Yes, that's it. It was here.
Oh, no. Here this. Here was also very nice. When we were already inside the range, the price made this shift, which was with a rejection in 1 minute. This just came from the previous 1 minute area. Swiped all of this, made a top a bit higher, 50%, and then here it stayed. Change of structure to the upside, and change of structure to the downside. Look how it plays this ping pong. Then it breaks. Here, 30%, and goes up. Here, 30%. Falls here. 50% went up here. 50%, and it continues to wear in the direction where we have the higher time frame order flow that is prevailing. But this ping pong was quite nice. And then again, very linear, very linear, very linear. I was already expecting 6 more points here. Need to get to 35, but no. He didn't want to take me there, to that level of daily. He just went with the 50 daily and weekly fractals. And this here too. Here I already had it marked on the S. So the S had already released the CPI load a while ago. But this area around here remained. This area was responsible for taking out the last area that had validated the price by order flow before this drop. Look here, this one hadn't validated the price, never went back to it, and a continuation. This was the last area that had given a downtrend positioning in that entire drop until the order flow shifted upward. Let's put the tab to all this over here on the daily. Well, if this is responsible, look how at the same time that the Nasdaq tapped over there, how responsible the S also did. Touched here and nothing. From there the climb started, and the S did take much more upward the high of the day's opening of all this one, if it ended up going much more. Then far away, nothing. The price action, beautiful, beautiful all week. I hope you did very well, and if not, I hope it goes very well for you these upcoming weeks. There is a lot of important news. Look where the price stops here at 50 exactly. I hope it goes very well for you the other weeks. There is a lot of important news, so take advantage. That's when all the powers get activated. As they say, look how the structures are very marked. Here 50% left this new range. And look how 50%, well, any questions let me know. This will definitely be the last review for a while, as I'm going to do other things, and I want to upload for the Spanish speaking people to make the most of all that I have left for you today. Bye bye.